All right, council, at 6:30. And we'll call this meeting of the Laramie City Council to order. This is the meeting of September 20th, 2022. Thank you all for joining us. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, however you feel best. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead with roll call.
Cumbie.
Here.
Gabriel.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Schmeckel.
Here.
Schuster.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We have public comment on non-agenda items. So if you're here to make a comment about something that isn't on the agenda, now's the time. There'll be another time later. Okay, go ahead and close the public comment period and move forward. Vice Mayor, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that the agenda be set as submitted.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Schuster. I think all those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. No one opposed. Now we have proclamations and presentations next on the agenda. And it's my privilege to, yes, Councilmember Schuster. Councilmember Schuster?
Yes.
You had your hand up. Was that left over?
No, that was from the last. Every so often my computer screen freezes and my hand stays up too long.
Not a problem, Councilmember Schuster. Thank you. So we have a proclamation tonight, and it's my privilege and honor to read our proclamation in recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Whereas Radio Montanesa, Voz de la Gente, KOCA Radio, also known as COCA Radio, Wyoming Latina Youth Center, the University of Wyoming MECHA Student Organization, the Laramie Latino Mural Committee, the UW Latinx Latina Latino e-network program, the Laramie Lincoln Community Center, and other local organizations are celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs from September 15th through October 15th, 2022. And whereas the Hispanic Heritage Observance began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. It was enacted into law on August 17th, 1988. And whereas by highlighting the rich heritage, arts, histories, culture, and traditions of Hispanic and Latinx people within Laramie, Wyoming, these groups urge the city to honor and pay tribute to these community members for their contribution to our city and its society. And whereas the population of Laramie would benefit by the visibility and recognition of achievements and contributions of Hispanic and Latinx peoples to the city of Laramie. And whereas understanding that Hispanics and Latinx are extremely entrepreneurial and play a vital role in our economy and workforce, and have also contributed to making Laramie an economically prosperous and culturally rich city. And whereas we encourage all residents to recognize and support Hispanic and Latinx heritage, culture, and economic contributions to honor our youth and inspire them to embrace their cultural identities. Now, therefore, I, Paul Weaver, Mayor, and President of the governing body of the city of Laramie, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month. And I think we have a guest with us. Yes, we've got Miss Connie Coca. to make a few comments and accept the reading of the proclamation. Good evening, Ms. Coca. Thank you for being here. Over to you for anything you'd like to share with us.
Well, thank you very much. Tonight I have Stephanie Coca Carter with me here at the house. And we also have Nicholas Geraldo.
Good, welcome.
First of all, let me thank you, Paul, for all your help in making this proclamation. And the rest of the city council, of course, also. It's been a while since we've had the proclamation in Laramie. I think it should become a yearly event. Anyway, thank you. And thank you to President Reagan for enacting this into law in 1988 and actually on John's and my anniversary. So I had to add that in. Let me tell you just a little bit about Coca. It's Coca Radio 93.5. As most of you know, it's a bilingual radio station and many times multilingual, depending on the programming that we have. We are very proud to be celebrating 20 years this year that we have been on the air. At one time, we were told that there was no need for a Spanish language radio station, yet here we find ourselves 20 years later. What's happening with Coca besides the 20th anniversary is the Padres Hablando mural. If some of you have not seen it, it hangs at the Civic Center. We're really proud to announce that it will be hanging in the hallway on the second floor so that everybody can see it. It has been hanging in the studio and people can only see it when the radio station is open. So now it will be on second floor at the Coca, right out of the Coca studio on second floor at the Civic Center. So we're really proud about that. The other thing that we had going this month is we're so excited to be featuring Latina women through a mural that was funded through, oh goodness, the Union Pacific and the Laramie Arts Coalition. So the mural is between 2nd and 3rd Street behind 307 South 2nd, behind the Pine Beach and the Knot Hole building. So I invite you all to, it's a work in progress. So I invite you to go by. Maybe you'll get to meet the artist if she's not too busy and she's off of the lift. But it is taking shape and we want to invite all of you to come by and see it. I'm sure that we will schedule an unveiling or a grand opening for that particular mural. So I invite you all. And once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity for this proclamation. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you for being here to share a couple of words. Stephanie, I see you there. Is there anything you wanted to add about the mural too?
I am part of the board for this, and it's been probably about 6 months since it's been a committee and a part of the board. At this time, I guess I cannot be more proud of what is taking place. It is, to me, a strength of family and of 3 generations, and such a powerful piece for anyone that has the opportunity to see it. I do want to leave it at that because a picture does portray 1,000 words, and I want to leave that open for anyone that does view it. I am excited, blessed and honored to have the opportunity, one, to own the building, and being a Hispanic minority owned small business. I am 100% owner of the building as well as owner of my business. And what a blessing to live in such a wonderful country that we are in. And this just solidifies that we are who we are, whether we are a man, woman, soldier, as my father was, a strong, educated mother, to have the morals and values and be able to portray that in a mural such as what we have. So I am so proud, and I want to thank each and every one of you for such a beautiful thing moving forward.
Let me add also that I would like to thank the entire committee and all the other supporters of this phenomenal mural.
Thank you very much.
It's by the Union Pacific, and then like I think I mentioned that, and then the Laramie Art Coalition. So thank you again, and you all have a good meeting and have a good night.
Thank you for those gracious comments. I think if you know, if we sometimes ask the question in the community about the purpose of the Public Art Coalition and the purpose of these kinds of recognitions, I think it's clear that it's simply an effort to recognize what makes this a strong community, what makes this a vibrant community, what makes this an inclusive community that is aware of its history, the contributions made by the people throughout this community history, and the importance of representations in public art, why we have those programs, and why we think they're worthwhile. And I just want to thank you again for those gracious comments. And I also like the opportunity to recognize a local business owner who owns the building and operates a very popular business tied to a very popular pastime here in Laramie, Wyoming, our athletics programs. I think everybody's pretty familiar with that business. And just, we want to thank you again, and just, we're very pleased to have this opportunity to read the proclamation and talk about some of the things that we're doing in Laramie, Wyoming, in recognition of this cultural awareness month. So thank you so much. And
thank you also, Paul, for serving on our board.
It's been a real pleasure to do that, and congratulations on 20 years of KOC Radio. That's amazing. I think I'd like to recognize Councilmember Gabriel has something to say here.
Thanks, Mayor. Connie, I was just curious. I talked to engineer Jim Petty recently about the signal, and he said some parts were being ordered. I know it's been down for a little bit, and I just tried yesterday, in fact, and did any kind of signal. It's right by where 91.9 is, and so when I'm bypassing that, I try to tune in a little bit and find out. I enjoy the Spanish music. So I was just curious if there's any update on the progress of getting the signal back.
I think it's being worked on right now. It was on all day today, and it was on part of yesterday. So I think it's in the works, and I think it'll be more on than off. I think that part came in already.
Good. Well, it's great to hear about the mural as well. That's one fantastic mural, and it should be available to the public for sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
At the risk of crossing a boundary here, I'll just say that the KOCA radio station is a nonprofit, not-for-profit entity providing a very important service, both in terms of news, arts, and culture. There's a ton of great music on there, but also really a host of programs. So if you're interested in making sure that signal stays available and reliable, there are ways to get in touch with KOCA so you can support that nonprofit enterprise, and I'd encourage you to do that as maybe something you might do for your recognition of this Cultural Heritage Month. We want to thank you again. We want to thank you again very much, and appreciate it. And we're once again really pleased to have the opportunity to read the proclamation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. We will now go to another great thing that we like to do under proclamations and presentations, and that's the monthly staff recognition. I don't know if you all got an opportunity to look at your City of Laramie Spark newsletter. I hope you did, but for now, we'll turn it over to, since we don't have our city manager with us tonight, we'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Feaser. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Becky Simpson. She's a 9/11 operator. She was nominated by fellow 9/11 operator Sarah Felton for her extreme team player attitude that she displays. I do have to tell you that I'm lucky to be in an office next to where the interviews for these go on. And after Becky was here at that time, I tell you, I was walking on cloud 9 that day. She was such a positive energy, and it was so fun to just hear her interview and visit with her for the couple of minutes I got to visit with her. Becky came to the City of Laramie 20 years ago, September 23rd. So in 3 days, she'll be celebrating 20 years with the City of Laramie, which is an amazing career all at large. She had a close in her position. She was going to lose her position with StarTech, and knowing what the city provided for her family growing up through her dad being with the city for 40 years, she chose to come over to the city, and we were excited to have her. And it's really been a long, distinguished career in a very difficult organization through the stress that these dispatchers are constantly put under. She has heart-pounding moments when she's taking the calls, and she has solace in that she never knows the true value of her help that she provides those folks. They may not know, she may not hear from them again, but she knows she's provided some safety and some security for the folks that call, and that's really what's lifted her up. She has 2 nieces, Bella and Mai, that come from Tulsa, Oklahoma. They only come out for a week, but when they were younger, she says that they used to come out and she was their summer mom, their quote unquote summer mom. And they would come out for a week, and then they spend all summer with her. And after you get to hear from Becky tonight, you're going to realize why they would want to come out and spend a whole summer with this gal. She is just a bubble of joy and just great to have. I can't tell you how excited I was to, again, be part of that interview. Steve Morgan added that Becky's confident, pleasant, helpful, and always focused on the importance of the department's mission and the importance and the accuracy of your work, which in what she's doing, you could only imagine how important that is for us. Helping others is what's at the core of Becky. And again, when I was in visiting with her, she helped me through the day. She made my day better, and she may not know that, but it was really important for me. So I think we should all give Becky some applause for 20 years of service on September 23rd. And now I'd like to turn it over to Robert Terry, the interim police chief.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. I just wanted to publicly say how proud I am to work with Becky. I've worked with her for 20 years, of course, when I was on patrol and a patrol sergeant. She has been a pillar in dispatch. And I just want to say thank you, in public. I think everything that Assistant City Manager Feaser said is 100% accurate, and she's very well deserving of this honor. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Becky Simpson, thank you for being here tonight and for your 20 years of work. I want to just note that when I read the little feature on you in the Gem City Spark, one thing that really struck me about that was your comment about your realization that this was the job and the career that you were meant to have. And I thought that was really meaningful. And I appreciated your sharing those comments. But I'd like to turn it over to you for anything that you'd like to share with us. And thank you so much for being here.
I just want to say thank you to my coworker, Sarah, for nominating me. It was unexpected. And I really am meant to do this job. God created me for it, and I've been there for 20 years. I really do enjoy helping the citizens of Laramie and being with my coworkers. We're all a team, and we do what we got to do to help each other. And we have in the last few years when we've been very short-handed. So I don't know what else to say.
That's fine. That was the perfect thing to say. And again, we just appreciate your years of work and what you bring to that job, that important, difficult job. And we think it's an appropriate recognition for you. I see that we've got Steve Morgan with us. Steve, are you here just for recognition and moral support? Did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I am here for moral support and to show my love of Becky and all the dispatchers and the work that they do. I think I would want to point out to City Council that one of Becky's extra tasks that she's taken on is to communicate with other 911 and dispatch centers throughout the country. Frequently, these dispatch centers are under the gun just like we are. They're short-staffed just like we are. And upon occasion, they lose an officer or a dispatcher or have some line of duty event that's catastrophic. And Becky makes it a point to reach out to these groups and sends them cards of greeting and wishes for peace and recognition of the things that those centers are going through. And that recognition comes on behalf of the dispatchers in the city of Laramie. And we get amazing feedback from those centers that receive notes from Becky and our dispatch center. It's the cherry on the hot fudge sundae.
Thank you. And thank you for making those comments. We really appreciate it. You know, it's always really important for the City Council to get these moments to hear and learn about our staff and all of these departments. That's not something that is a regular part of our job here. And so it's meaningful for us to hear about what the people that work for the City of Laramie really do, and to hear from their coworkers and supervisors. And we really just appreciate our own opportunity to share just a little bit of recognition with people that do a really important job that we could spend a lot more time talking about. The dispatch center is really a public service hub. It's not just when you call when you have a concern about maybe a law enforcement related issue. It's animal control. It's things that you notice in town that you want to draw attention to. And these folks field those calls. I think, Becky, you've probably fielded more than one or two calls for me about stray dogs and what I could maybe try to deal with that, and so on and so forth. And that's just, you know, not even the tip of the iceberg for that job. So thank you. And again, thank you for your time with us all these years. And we look forward to you being part of the City of Laramie's team for the years ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right. I like starting meetings that way. Let's go now to item number 7. And we want to thank those staff folks for making time to be with us again, and how much we really like that. We're going to go now to item number 7, which is disclosures by City Council members. If there are any items on the agenda tonight that warranted disclosure by any City Council members, now is the time. Seeing none, we will move forward. And I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Second from Council Member Somerville. City Clerk. Roll call, please.
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schmeckel.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 no's, Your Honor.
And that motion carries. The consent agenda has been approved. Thank you very much. And will now take us into item number 10, the opening of the regular agenda, and then immediately to item number 11. And I'll go to Council Member O'Doherty to introduce the motion.
I move that Laramie City Council approve ordinance number 2041, amending Laramie Municipal Code Chapter 10.32, bicycles to update language to reflect current device uses on second reading.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Gabriel. Thank you very much. We'll turn it over to Assistant City Manager Fieser for background on the item.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, as you know, this item had gotten mired down in staff workload. I was actually able to complete my portion of the renderings of taking the information from BikeNet and Traffic Safety Commission and one other group, I can't remember who it was, and was able to pull it all together in one document. But I found that when I got it to the engineering department for review, that it landed right in the middle of they're trying to close up their projects, and they didn't have time to get it reviewed before we got to back to Traffic Safety Commission. So we are scheduled to be back to Traffic Safety Commission, and we're asking for one more postponement to get this item to Traffic Safety Commission, then come back to council.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. I don't think this is a small item, so that makes sense that we want to have it go through all of the channels and have all those opportunities for input and workshopping. That makes sense. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Fieser on this postponement request? Why don't we see if there's any public comment on the postponement request?
Don't I have to make the motion, Mr. Mayor?
I believe that you do need to make the motion. Thank you.
I move to postpone the second reading of original ordinance 2041 to October 18th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Council, one more time, if you have any questions before we go to public comment. Seeing none, is there any public comment on the postponement motion? Seeing none, we'll close that. And City Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Humby.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Schmeckel.
Yes.
Schuster.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 no's, Your Honor.
That motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up on our agenda, we have a presentation from the Associated Students of the University of Wyoming, also known as ASUW, the student government. I believe we have a representative from ASUW with us. And I'd like to apologize on behalf of the council for having to reschedule this to this meeting. And thank you for your patience and your availability to be with us 2 weeks in a row. And we want to welcome the director of, is it External Relations?
Governmental and Community Affairs.
Perfect. We'd like to welcome the Director of Governmental and Community Affairs, and it's over to you for whatever you'd like to share with us.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I apologize if my internet, it's not very stable. So if you can't hear me very well, or if I can't answer all your questions. It's just me tonight. President Brown would usually be here presenting, but due to our normal Senate ASUW meeting, she's unable to make this one. So I will be presenting on behalf of both of us. So the Associated Students of the University of Wyoming, on the next slide, it gives a little bit of a background information and our presentation contents. So each year we like to present what ASUW is and the problems that are facing the students at the University of Wyoming. Next slide. So ASUW is the purpose of the student government at the University of Wyoming is to represent the students. And we recently just moved to an at-large unit for the Senate. Instead of senators just representing their college, we now represent every single student. So you do not need to be a member of your affiliated college to join ASUW. So that is one of the big changes that ASUW made this year. And it's been very helpful to get the entirety of student opinions instead of just college-based opinions. 3 branches make up ASUW: legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Executives overhead the legislative branch, while legislative votes on our different resolutions and legislation. Next slide, please. So food insecurity initiatives is definitely something that ASUW tries to work on every single year. ASUW works in conjunction with groups at the University of Wyoming and in the community, such as Interfaith. We do a lot of work with Interfaith within the community to promote our free food pantry. University of Wyoming does have a food pantry that you can get food from without a cost. And ASUW also leads the UW Food Insecurity Task Force on campus. We make sure that the food share pantry is stocked and students can come in and get what they need without any of those issues. And we also work to fund and organize food share pantries across campus and within the community. So it's not just solely based at University of Wyoming. And ASUW also works with the Washakie Dining Center on meal swipe sharing programs. So students that live on campus and have access to Washakie Dining Center can now also share their meals with people who live off campus if they are in need of meals, as well as individuals within the community. Next slide, please. Mental health initiatives is another big part of ASUW as well, the entire city of Laramie. We co-chair the Student Wellness Advisory Board, which advocates for all types of mental health issues on campus. And we work with different groups on campus to better promote and share information for students about their mental health and wellness initiatives, For example, we offer free counseling at the University of Wyoming, and we also help to promote that in different marketing ways under ASUW. And this attends to very crucial needs on campus. And as well, we know that a lot of mental health has been exacerbated by COVID-19, and these issues do continue to impact students. So mental health is definitely something that we try to work very hard on within ASUW so we can better support all students on campus. Next slide. Yes, tenant and landlord rights. This is something that Allison, the former director, worked with City Council on last semester, and we are still deeply invested in continuing to support and bolster the City Council's efforts in the implementation of the rental housing ordinance. And we are still looking forward to sharing collaboration on this. And on the next slide, you will see some student opinions that were taken from our student survey. And these are real students on campus that are struggling with renters and different issues about living off campus that are very difficult. So these are real student answers right here. Landlord does not follow the lease, not responding to maintenance calls, resulting in unsafe living conditions. We really want to support our students that are living on campus, as well as students that are living off campus, as that is a very big majority of students. And street parking. So there's a lot of updates on street parking coming in the next semester and next couple of years. So on the screen here, you can see parking permits that are given to faculty and students. And sorry, excuse me, the internet is catching up with me. These are parking permits that are available to students, and there's been a lot of issues surrounding those as there's not enough parking spots on campus for students to actually park. And the Union parking lot is leaving. We will not have the Union anymore, and it is being turned into a green space. And a lot of students are very angry about this, and ASUW did try to talk to the Board of Trustees so this would not pass, but unfortunately it is passing. And on the next slide, you will see student opinions. Another student survey was conducted on the bus schedules and parking permits. One issue that students have is if the Union parking lot does go away, there is free parking in the Union for students after 5 p.m. With that parking lot being taken away, students who have night classes, which I believe the latest class that runs on campus now is 10 p.m. and buses end at 6:30. So they do not have transportation to get them to and from various places if they are living off campus. So they will not have an area to park. They are building a new parking garage on Ivinson, which is as of right now just for faculty and staff, and parking permits for students to purchase if there are any. We still have not heard back on that. Start at $500, and a lot of students do not have the funds to pay for that right now. And we have some real student concerns over here. You can see that students are very upset about this. A lot of students love to park on campus, gives them more mobility and freedom to move in between classes if they have to, for example, go from the classroom building to the College of Animal Sciences. That would be a very long walk, and sometimes buses take too long and it's not as accessible. So that is one major thing that ASUW is working on, trying to extend those bus routes and make students more comfortable. Collaboration between the university and Laramie. We are still working on getting connections at the city level. This semester in October, we have Polk's Vote coming up. So every candidate from Wyoming and Albany County is invited to come to the university and talk to students and really voice their opinions to young voters on campus. That is something that we are very excited to be hosting as ASUW. And as well as a lot of volunteering opportunities. As I mentioned before, interfaith is something that we like to work with a lot for our food share pantry. So lots of volunteering opportunities for students to collaborate within Laramie County and get out of the University of Wyoming a little bit, since Laramie is such a small community. We feel, a lot of students feel that they are disconnected from Albany County. They feel that the university and Laramie are very separate and they would like to get more involved at the city level. So that is something that we're also working on. And that is it. So questions that I cannot answer, you can contact President Allison Brown. There's her email on the screen right there. And she will have more information if you are looking for questions that need to be answered that I do not have the answers to. But thank you so much. That is our presentation.
Thank you very much, Director Heddens. Are you willing to field a couple of questions from the council at this time?
Yes.
Okay, great. Council? Yeah, I'm going to go to Councilmember O'Doherty and then Councilmember Harrington, although it was close. Councilmember O'Doherty.
Thank you, Caitlin, and we're really glad to have you here. I was really interested that the city doesn't want, well, I'm not speaking for the whole city, but I feel like the green space, taking away that parking near the Union is a really bad idea from a student safety perspective, because people go to the library at night and it's nice to be able to park near there. And so it sounds like the legislature passed that they want a green campus and the Board of Trustees. And I think it's might be important for students to let the legislature know that they shouldn't dictate. They're micromanaging the campus. So it would be good for students to speak to their legislators. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Yes, I completely agree with that. A lot of students are very upset about the Union parking being taken away. And ASUW has tried to fight for it to be turned and keep the Union parking, but unfortunately it has not worked in our favor. So we are trying other options, such as more parking permits, make them more accessible to students at cheaper prices, as well as more emergency buttons across campus if students are walking on campus during night classes and having to take the bus, so they can have more safety precautions.
Thank you. I've got Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Caitlin, the statistic about anxiety on your mental health slide was pretty startling. You know, and I know that this has been sort of an ongoing issue, but I'm curious. Is ASUW maintaining any sort of like longer term data on this so that we can start to look longitudinally at the at sort of the trends in this area? I mean, I can imagine some things about it. I would expect that those numbers have been increasing, but I would be curious to see that data, just you know, not necessarily as a member of the council, but just as somebody curious about this and hopeful to make people's lives a little better.
Yes, anxiety and mental health is a huge concern with the University of Wyoming, especially coming out of COVID-19 and a lot of out-of-state students missing their family and not finding a place to fit in on campus. ASUW does send out a student issue survey every semester, and that goes out into the entire student body as well as the counseling center on campus so that we can gather those new statistics and find out better ways that we can help our students. But anxiety, unfortunately, has been increasing from our last student survey. So we are still trying to partner with the University Counseling Center, give more long-term therapy options that are still free to students to try and combat that.
Thank you. Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. Have you seen the drawings of what they hope to do with the dorms, including the roundabout in front of it, the narrowing of 15th that won't handle as much traffic? I just wonder if students have a comment on that, because I know students use 15th Street a huge amount also.
Yes, sir. ASUW has been in contact with Mr. Paul Kunkel on different issues concerning parking and the new construction on campus. Students are aware that is public. If you go to the university's website, you can see the blueprints of what they're trying to do in the coming years, and students are still very upset about that. We do not believe that the University of Wyoming can be turned into a walking campus, especially dealing with the icy sidewalks in the winter and the very cold weather that we have. If we are going to turn UW into a walking campus, there definitely needs to be problems addressed. Definitely icy sidewalks, proper transportation on campus, because we cannot ride our bikes in the winter either. So it's just not very accessible. And with the construction on 15th Street as well as Ivinson right now, building the parking garage, it's been extremely difficult for students to get around, and no one is really looking forward to the Union being taken away or the new construction on 15th Street, unfortunately.
Next up, I have Councilmember Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. My question kind of dovetails with some of the transportation pieces that we've been discussing in terms of whether the tide can be turned with the trustees in the plan. That certainly is a huge question. But in the alternative, is ASUW working on trying to ramp up or support any alternative transportation methods? So two things strike me. One is we only have a south lot for busing, and I know the employees and students use that lot. And in terms of trying to free up parking on campus, more buses from like North Campus or northern area, eastern, western area might free up some parking that's otherwise being used by staff. And then the second question is, I know that you guys don't allow the bird scooters right now on the University of Wyoming campus, and I understand the challenges in the ice in the winter. Although they tell me allegedly they do pretty good. Maybe they've got some good snow tires. If bringing e-scooters to campus or anything along those lines is that you guys have discussed.
So scooters, that would actually be an amazing idea. Thank you for mentioning that. That would be very cool. Yes, icy sidewalks are a big issue. So until we can fix that, that would not be very practical. But buses do run from the south lot as well as the east lot. So we do have both of those lots operating. Unfortunately, they are very slow. I know the east lot bus goes from the east lot to the classroom building, back to the Union, back to the east lot. Buses are supposed to take about 10 minutes, but they can take about 20 minutes between those intervals. So it's not super practical if you need to get somewhere very quickly. So with buses ending at 6:30 and there not being any available parking for students, we are working to expand those bus hours so students can feel more comfortable staying on campus later and having a way to get back to their cars or back to their apartments. So we are working on extending the bus hours. That is something that is very important to us. We do have buses now that run from the Union to Walmart, as well as the Union to downtown. So there has been some expansion in the buses, especially.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, now I've got Councilmember Gabriel and then Councilmember Cumby.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Caitlin, for being here tonight. Good presentation. My daughter attends UW, and I was just curious about the student survey. Not that she tells me everything, but she's never mentioned this student survey to me. And I was just curious how it is distributed, accessed, etc.
So ASUW and their student survey, it is sent via email to the entire student body. And a lot of students don't check their email, or they see an email from ASUW and they just ignore it. So we do marketing on those student surveys that we send out. We market on our Instagram, which has a lot of followers and a lot of students. And also on the WYO courses page, there is a pop-up that is just for ASUW. If you go to the ASUW pop-up, it should be the first link. So it is accessible to all students, and we try to promote that a lot when we are sending those surveys out.
Very good, thank you.
Councilmember Cumby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Caitlin, thank you very much for your presentation. And I just want to say that I'm very happy to see the goal of more collaboration and integration between the city, the county, and the university. And I think that that is a very strong goal of council as well. And so I look forward to brainstorming about how we can better build those relationships. And we are open to that. And I wanted to make one other comment about anxiety and the Preventative Services Task Force, which is an arm of the Department of Health and Human Services, a federal department, last year recommended nationally that all children and adolescents be assessed for anxiety whenever presenting within the medical system. It's supposed to become part of the standard: temperature, blood pressure, anxiety. Well, in the New York Times today, they reported that on Tuesday, this panel has recommended that it now include all adults. So we are a nation that is being plagued by anxiety. There's a lot of study and research going on about what the heck's going on. But anyway, it is a significant issue. And I'm glad to see you all tracking those statistics. We have to be aware of it before we can start to do something. So it really seems that you're doing some innovative work. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. It is disheartening to see the mental health crisis within the world, and especially on the UW campus. So we are trying very hard to get those students the help that they need and they deserve. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. You know, that's the other, I think, complicating factor is, of course, the enormous stigma that any mental health issue still carries. I teach some classes, and I hear this repeatedly from my students that we have an unhealthy approach towards that in the state of Wyoming for a variety of reasons. And I think that's real, frankly, real leadership on an important topic that comes out of our student community. And we need to do everything we can to address that. Director, I'd like to give you something I'd like you to carry back to the leadership of the student government and the student senate and students at the University of Wyoming in general. And that's this: students are an incredibly important part of this community. You've heard that from the council. We're eager to continue to collaborate and to the extent that we can advocate on behalf of students. I sometimes find that students are perhaps the most effective advocates. Students are more likely to be paid attention to than members of the Laramie City Council when we're talking to the leadership at the University of Wyoming, the Board of Trustees, the administration, and the legislature. And that's something you all should be aware of, is in fact that you are the most effective advocates for yourselves. I am of the belief that you are an underrepresented population, both in terms of decisions that are made about the university, as ironic as that may seem, and also in the halls of power in Cheyenne. You're an underrepresented community that people presume to speak on behalf of without truly knowing where students stand on issues. And I would encourage all of you in those positions at ASUW and in other leadership positions heads of organizations, clubs, those people that have taken on those roles across the campus there, to be encouraged to advocate for your positions and to do so forcefully and strongly at every opportunity, regardless of the issue, so that people know where students stand. Because I think all too often, the student perception and opinion about something is an abstraction that people can allude to without actually knowing where the real position on the issue is. So I would just encourage you to continue to strongly and forcefully advocate on behalf of students at the city council, with the county commissioners, with the board of trustees, and with the state legislature on your issues. And if there's anything we can do to help, I think you'll find many city council members willing to continue to do that. Many of these issues that you raised with us tonight are not in fact over. I think we're going to continue to see the need for public policy advocacy in a number of areas that you highlighted and outlined: mental health challenges, tenant protections, consumer protections. All of those things are alive and well. And I think we can anticipate that there will be more discussions for those. So I just want to encourage that advocacy and that leadership to the extent that you're able to, while you're also trying to get your degrees, which is, you know, not something that can be overlooked. We thank you for your patience with the city council and being available to us for 2 Tuesdays in a row. And once again, we'd like to apologize that we had to abruptly not include you in last week's agenda. We don't like to do things like that. Occasionally, the timing constraints are what they are. So with apologies and thanks, we appreciate this presentation, your willingness to field some questions for us. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I will be sitting in on the future city council meetings. So if I can add anything to the public comment, I will. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your kind words, as I will get those back to ASUW as well as UW as a whole. So thank you all for having me tonight.
You're very welcome. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comments on non-agenda items. We'll recognize Brett Glass and allow Mr. Glass into the meeting. And you have the floor, Mr. Glass.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, I hope that Caitlin is still here. I just wanted to thank her for her presentation. I wanted to express a couple of thoughts from a member of the community. First of all, in terms of community relations, the community, I think, is as eager to have better relations with students as the other way around. As a member and in some cases the organizer of several off-campus groups, I've found it frustrating that sometimes it's difficult to reach people on campus about events that they might be interested in. And one of the problems, unfortunately, is that you actually can't post notices about any event anywhere on campus except on one small bulletin board, and ASUW can probably help to influence that policy and make sure that it's possible to have better communication between town and campus. So I hope that they'll consider doing that. Again, I hope that Caitlin is still here, even though she's no longer on the screen. As for parking, I still do not understand how come the city allowed the university, when it built the new NZ building on 9th Street, to eliminate the parking along the side of the street. I hope that does not happen again when they create the new dorms, that they don't remove more parking from other streets. I think we need to be very conscious about this and look out for the community as well as for the students, because the administration may not be thinking of their interests or even have a profit motive trying to sell more permits. As for the landlord-tenant issues, I just thought I would point out to council that many of the issues that were addressed on the slide were ones that were not covered by the ordinance. There's more work to do, and I think that really needs to be done on the state level. So whatever happens with the ordinance, which has currently been voided by the courts, I think that we really need to concentrate on action at the state level if tenants have problems. And the good thing about this is it would apply to organizations that would otherwise be exempt, like the university and like the Cheyenne Housing Authority, and also would apply out in the county. Anyway, that's all. Those are the comments I have about the presentation this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. Other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Item number 14, future council work session topics. Council. Councilmember O'Doherty, and then I'll go to Councilmember Schuster.
Oh, I would like to hear more about our Soul Smart designation, maybe when we're talking about our the progress with renewable energy. And I really would like us to consider having the Smart App Plus, the app that allows the permitting of solar installations. It allows it to be speeded up, and there is grant money available to get that going. So I would like that to be a work session topic. Thank you.
Is there support for that? Yeah, I'm going to go to the city clerk for just a quick second.
Mayor, if I could just ask Councilor O'Doherty to repeat parts of that. Your microphone kind of cut out a little bit and I couldn't fully hear the request.
So it's so that perhaps in that session where we're going to talk about renewable energy or our goals, I would like to talk about our Soul Smart designation, which I think is silver, but I would also like the city to pursue the Solar App Plus. It's an app that's supposed to speed up permitting of photovoltaic installations. And so I would like staff to look into that because there's funding available to get it set up in our communities. And I got an email about that and passed it on to planning department. Thank you.
Was there support for that? So we can get that? Okay, great. Yep, looks like there's a number of council members that are interested. Okay, Councilmember Schuster.
Thank you. Again, we had several people ask tonight, ask that the chambers be opened. So I would like to move that we do a vote whenever everything is written and ready and see if council chambers can be reopened.
Councilmember O'Doherty.
Will Councilor Schuster be providing the new ventilation system? That's my concern. It's a small spot. And we can't count on the public to wear masks.
Okay, we're not discussing this tonight. That would be a point of order.
No,
all I'm asking is that chambers be reopened.
Councilmember Schuster, we are discussing it. You've introduced it. We're going to discuss it. Councilmember Harrington.
Just as a point of order, the councilor made that as a motion. That motion lacks a second, so we probably ought not discuss it.
City Clerk.
Mayor, just for clarification, was it an actual, Councilor Schuster, were you intending to make an actual motion tonight, or were you just stating that you would have asked?
I would like to look forward to this. I'm not making a motion. We vote on it tonight or anything like that. All I'm asking is that we put an agenda item on the agenda. But again, if I don't get a second here at this meeting, then it would not happen. But I am just putting that forward that I'd like to see it brought to an agenda item to be voted on by the councilors.
See, essentially that does become a motion. That becomes a motion to add something to an agenda. And that leads us to this difficult spot where we're having a discussion about a motion that's going to be forthcoming. Councilmember Gabriel.
On this topic, I remember several weeks ago, maybe it's been months now, we interviewed some candidates in city council chambers for boards, and we kind of walked around the area and visited with some staff members. And the restructuring of council right now, because of the court system, is not amenable to city council. There's not enough room. I mean, something's going to have to be rearranged. And I know Nancy knows all about that, but I just wanted council members to be aware that I understand where Councilor Schuster's coming from, but there's some rearranging necessary if we do, in fact, go back to city council chambers.
Councilmember Gabriel, I want to thank you for bringing up that point, and I think that's been iterated in some other discussions. We also have pending construction projects, although they're small, in the chamber as well. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Under 2.07, placing items on the business meeting agenda. Item B, it does say a council member may request an item be considered at a future agenda by a written request of the city manager in order to allow sufficient time for council to review and city staff to research the matter. The request should be submitted at least 10 days prior to the meeting for which the item is requested to be placed on the agenda. Requesting council member should submit to the clerk within 10 days all written materials for submission to council.
All right, and I believe Councilmember Schuster has forwarded a motion, a proposed motion to the city staff. I would ask that we table this discussion for the time being. I think a couple of important points have been raised. I have some concerns about the genesis of this issue, and I'd like to speak to council members individually about it as you see fit. So that we can discuss where we might want to go with this. And I also have some scheduled meetings with city staff to talk about some of this, because I have a number of concerns about it coming from a couple of different areas. And I think either way, we have some timing issues and some concerns about the condition of the chambers, which I frankly think has been one of the largest drivers of this council continuing to meet over Zoom at this point. So more to come, I think, in terms of discussion about this, but I think we're good for now. Any other work sessions that are proposed? If you take a look at that, you'll see that it's not an empty calendar by any means. I'd also like to point out, council, this is almost amazing, but this council has roughly a dozen meetings left as this council, which is not a tremendous number, and a lot of business to tackle between now and the end of the year. So that's approximately 12 meetings, maybe a few more here and there, but it's nearly the end of this sitting council's term. And I think that should bear some weight on a number of these proposed work sessions coming up, and also some of these other discussions that have been proposed tonight. That's my feeling about it. All right. Seeing no further discussion about work session topics or upcoming meetings, I think we would all like to end this meeting and adjourn here at 7:30. Isn't that a treat? So I'd like to call on Councilmember Schuster to make the motion for adjournment, as is traditional.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much.